Can a 20-year-old DSLR still cut it in 2025? With all the hype about mirrorless, high megapixels and AI, I'm going to take my trusty D70 out to take some photos and see how it fares. So join me as I go downtown to take photos of nature, architecture and possibly people, and we'll see how this camera does. I'll be looking at image quality, build and dynamic range. I'll be answering the age-old question, do you need a modern equipment to take great photos? So let's go find out. So what is the Nikon D70? Well, it's a Nikon prosumer DSLR released in January 2004. It features a 6.1 megapixel APS-C CCD crop sensor with a 1.5 times crop factor. It shoots in RAW and JPEG with an ISO range of 200 to 1600. The shutter speed ranges from 30 seconds down to 1/8000th of a second. It features a 1.8-inch screen for reviewing the images and for managing the menu. Reviewing the images, the screen is very small and dark, so it does make chimping a bit of guesswork. I've got two lenses with me today. I've got the kit lens here, which is AFS Nikon 18 to 30, 3.5 to 4.5 G ED lens. That's not a bad little zoom lens. But I've also got on the camera, and this is one I'm going to be using mainly today, the AFS Nikon 35mm 1.8 G. This is the APS-C version of the lens. It's a lovely little lens, equivalent 50mm on full frame. So I'm just going to have a look around here, see what there is to photograph. Just behind me there's an old chimney stack. That might make quite an interesting subject. So I'll see if I can take a couple of photos of that and I'll show you what they come out like. So I'm at f8 1/60th of a second, ISO 200, which is the base ISO. Going to focus, recompose, just put the chimney just off to the left. And there we go. Now, because this is a DSLR, it's not the quietest camera in the world. It also hasn't got the fastest shutter, but the shutter sound is good. Listen to this. Yeah, that's a pretty good shutter sound. It's got a huge mirror in this. It's got the same mirror as some of their full frame cameras, so it is a big hunk of glass that's moving around. You may notice there that it does tend to buffer a little bit. Hasn't got particularly good buffer on here. Also, this camera uses compact flash cards, big heavy things. Again, not particularly fast, but with the tiny file sizes this camera puts out, it's never really an issue. Okay, let's get moving down to the beach. It's a good composition here behind me, looking down the pier. Going to retest the dynamic range of this camera because we've got some quite dark shadows and it's quite a bright sky, so we'll see what the dynamic range is like. But it's a good composition. We've got leading line, we've got the lads at the end fishing, always fishermen down here. It's quite a popular place, so we'll take a shot of that and I'll pop that up in the sea. So again, I'm not having to change any of my settings. Still f8 1/25th of a second, ISO 200. Going to put the horizon line at the top third and get a long leading line up to the end of the pier. And let's see how that comes out. Just a little way along the path here, along the fence, along the top of the beach. You've got these concrete blocks. I think this is part of the old pier. There used to be another pier running out here back in the Second World War. There's communication cables that run out from here as well, but they make quite a good foreground interest, sort of overlooking the pier. So I'm going to take a couple of shots around here and I'll show you those as well. The problem with wearing a baseball cap when you're trying to shoot in portrait orientation is the brim gets in the way, so I always have to turn it around. Things are due to be a photographer. So I'm going to focus on this concrete block at the minute. in the bottom of the frame. Just come a little bit wider, and I've just got the pier in the background. I'm trying to avoid the two pier supports on the right hand side because they may be a little bit distracting if they're just creeping into the edge of the frame. The composition here is actually quite tricky. Going to go something a bit more challenging for this camera now, some real high dynamic range. Under the pier here, got the very dark seaweed at the bottom and the pier, and then the very bright sky and the water surrounding it. So we'll see how this camera handles that kind of dynamic range. So here at f8, I'm only at 40th of a second. Now this camera doesn't have stabilisation, so I may struggle here. What I might do is just bump my ISO up. Just take it up to 400. Don't want to go too high on this. Don't want to go too high on this camera because it hasn't got great dynamic range, and we'll see how that turns out. ISO 400, I can go up to 80th of a second. We'll see what that looks like when I get back. Hopefully I can recover the shadows. There's probably going to be quite a lot of noise in there. I might be able to denoise them. I am shooting raw, so we'll see how that comes out. Right, enough of this. I think I'm going to walk along the beach towards the sailing club and round down towards Eastney Ferry. Come down to the other end of the beach, and over on the other side of the entrance to the harbour is the ferry boat inn. If you know me, if you saw my previous video when we went up to Winchester, you know how much I like a drink. It looks so close, but it's really not. That's one hell of a drive round to the edge of Hayling. It's right at the western tip of Hayling Island, right at the end of the beach. Lovely little pub, but I'm going to stop here for a couple of minutes and take a couple of shots. I'm probably going to swap out my 35mm for the longer lens, just see if I can get a little bit more reach, but I will take a couple of the wider shots just to start with. So I'm going to start off with the 35mm, just take some establishing shots. F8 still, 250 of a second, ISO 200, ISO 400. Let's drop that back down, don't need to be at ISO 400. It's one of those cameras you really don't want to use a higher ISO than necessary because you will get noise. It hasn't got the high ISO performance that more modern cameras, mirrorless cameras and such have. So that's 1/100th of a second, f8, ISO 200, and there we go. Right, I'm just going to swap out the lens and I'll be back. So let's talk about the build quality of this camera. These things are built like tanks. Even though it's a plastic construction and it's got no weather sealing, they really are indestructible. There's lots of things I like about this. The shutter release button, and you can see there, it's metal. On the newer cameras like my D70-200, it's plastic, always felt a little bit cheaper. The lens mount on this, you see, it's an F-mount lens, but the lens mount, even though this is a kit lens, is metal. So you feel confident with it. On the kit lens with my D70-200, that's plastic, and I've never felt confident with it. One of the reasons why I upgraded to my Nikon Z6, I didn't trust the lens mount. It always felt like I was going to break it at any moment. It's got a really good grip. It's got a nice deep grip. All the buttons on the back are in easily accessible places. We've got the D-pad there for adjusting your menu settings and for switching between the five autofocus points. Yes, I know I keep on going on about all that, about only having 5 autofocus points. I just can't believe that a camera's only got 5 autofocus points. Not that it ever bothers me. I just use the center point and recompose. The only thing I don't like about this camera, or two things I don't like about it: tiny little screen on the back makes reviewing the images really, really difficult. The colours on there are terrible. It's dim, it's too small. It's a bit of a guessing game, really. Also, this camera doesn't have live view, so you've only got the optical viewfinder for composing. So it means if you want to take low level or high level shots, you've either got to stand on a step ladder or get on your belly down on the ground and look through the viewfinder, or guess, I suppose. The other thing I don't like about this, and this is the same with all Nikon cameras, is the rubberized grip. Now, over 20 years with this grip and my grubby, sticky, sweaty hands, the rubber started to degrade and is really, really sticky. I don't know if you can hear my hand sticking to it. I suppose it does have its advantages. I mean, if I tried to drop this camera, I couldn't drop it if I tried, because it's stuck to my hand. That's how sticky it is. I really need to get some rubbing alcohol on there and try and clean that up a little bit. I think it's the same with all Nikon cameras. My 7200 is starting to do the same. I think even my Z6 is starting to go a little bit sticky. I almost wish that Nikon wouldn't put rubberized grips on there. We just leave a textured grip like the Sonys do. This is fascinating. This beach, as far as the eye can see, it's just all shells. There's not a pebble in sight. I've ever seen that before. Where on earth do all these shells come from? Moved a little bit further down the beach, down towards the lifeboat station. But here might be quite interesting. We've got these gabions in the foreground, and then in the midground there's the harbour light pole, and then behind it we've got the pub, the ferry boat on the other side of the harbour. So I'm going to take a couple of photos here. Still got my 18 to 70 on, and we'll see what those come out like. I think I'm going to bump this up to f11. I really don't want to be focus stacking. So this camera's got a depth of field preview button which stops down the lens and gives you an idea of what the picture's going to look like. I think even though I'm focusing quite close at 18mm, I think everything's going to be in focus. Won't really know until I get back into the studio, have a look at it on the computer. But I'm at f11, 20th of a second, ISO 200. If that comes out okay, I'll show you the shot. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to show you a little bit of architecture as well on down here. So I've got the lifeboat station. This is going to be a real test of this camera. Blackwood, very bright sky, kind of mid-grey in the foreground. This is really going to test the dynamic range of this camera. I think there could be some interesting compositions here because you've got the bus shelter as well. So I'm going to take a couple of photos just around this area. See what that looks like. I'm going to go around the other side and just take a picture of this bus shelter as well. That could be interesting. I'm going to go into 24th of a second there. Just frame the bus shelter up, smack bang in the middle. That's at f11, 30th of a second. And there's one last shot I'm going to take here. I'll just swing you around. You see this is old houseboat behind me. That could be quite interesting. I'm going to go long at 18mm, just make it look really quite deserted, just for the boats in the foreground. And I might go in a little bit closer just to take some detail shots. So I'm right out at 70mm. So at f5.6 from 60th of a second. And that could look quite interesting there. Not old evening tonight. It's chilly, there's quite a breeze. but it's really warm and muggy. I'm starting to regret putting this coat on now. I really want to take it off. I'm starting to get a little bit sweaty under here. It's quite pleasant down here. Okay, just going to go right the way down to the ferry and see what's down there. Here's a little scene I can't resist. A really oldie worldy looking, very interesting houseboat. And it's got the other boat on the left hand side with the nice red and the black. Quite a colourful scene. Love that blue door, love the orange of the life rings. So let's go and take a couple of photos of that. This is a road, so I've got to make sure I don't get run over. I think I'm going to stick at 24mm. Still f5.6, hundredths of a second. The light is starting to drop a little bit now. Yeah, that should look quite nice. These collections of old boats, well, the old boats, they're just little boats. They've also got such wonderful colour and texture, so I think there's a few shots to be had around here. If I zoom right in just to kind of isolate a small group of them. f5.6, 1/60th of a second. Might get a little bit closer just to make sure I don't get the any of the water in. Yeah, I think there's a couple of interesting shots to be had there. So what do I think about the Nikon D70? It's a great camera. Might be old, but I've had taken some very good pictures of that. One of my favourite pictures I ever took, where's this car to go past me, was in, I think, 2005 down at the International Festival of the Sea in Portsmouth Dockyard. It's a picture of the HMS Victory, which I converted to part colour, part black and white. Now, with a 6 megapixel camera, I managed to print that out from a JPEG, 6 megapixel remember, on A3, and it looks stunning. I had that up on my wall for many, many years. I'll show you a picture of that. I'll put that up on screen so you can see the picture. Don't judge me, it is split colour, selective colour. It was the thing back then. But it just goes to show that you don't need high megapixel, you don't need massive dynamic range. It's all about composition, lighting, technique. Some will say I haven't got it. I'd probably say I haven't got it. If I'm not careful, I'm going to get run over walking along here. I think a bit of crossover, so I'm going into the flow of traffic. But even with an old camera, you can still take great photos. Yeah, the dynamic range is not great. The autofocus isn't great. You haven't got the autofocus points. You haven't got all the bells and whistles. It's not a sports camera. It's got probably a pathetic 3 frames a second for about 4 photos before the buffer fills up. So you're not going to be using it for sports. But as an entry-level camera, you can still take good photos with it, and hopefully I'll show you that when we get back to the studio and I'll show you some edits.